There are a lot of myths about learning. Some of them negatively affect students more than others. In this video, I will talk about 3 learning myths that I have found really hold students back. So stay tuned to find out how to learn more by countering these learning myths. Myth number 1. If a study strategy feels right, then it is effective. Unfortunately, many of the most common strategies that students use have been shown to be ineffective. Let's look at 2 of these. First, highlighting. Highlighting parts of a textbook is popular because it seems to make sense. Rather than just passively reading a text, you need to think about what the most important parts are. However, how can you be sure that what you consider to be important aligns with what your instructor thinks is important? If you have highlighted different items, then it means that the focus of your study will be on the wrong things. Additionally, even if you were to pick the correct parts, there is a big difference between highlighting them and learning them. In the end, one of the main purposes of lectures is for the instructor to show you what the important parts are. So you shouldn't need to highlight them in your textbook. Instead, when reading a textbook, rather than highlighting, you should be using an active reading technique to help you understand and connect the concepts. Second, and this one often really surprises students, listening to music while you study. The details of why listening to music reduces the effectiveness of your study sessions are contained in my video on cognitive load theory. The short version is that any and all distractions take up some of your working memory resources, meaning you have less available to devote to learning. So, the key takeaway is that whenever you are studying, you should minimize distractions so that you can focus as much as possible on learning the content. On to myth number 2. You can accurately judge how much you have learned. First, when I say you, I mean everybody. In psychology, the Dunning-Kruger effect says that in general, people are inherently bad at judging their level of competence. A common way of demonstrating this in education is to get students to try to predict what grade they will get on an upcoming test. Time and time again, studies show that struggling students generally overestimate how well they will do. For example, in this study, every student who scored under 60% on the test had overpredicted their grade by more than 10%. From my point of view, the biggest problem with this is that it means that the students don't realize they are struggling and hence don't get the help that they could use. This myth also applies to study strategies. In particular, students often feel they learn more from methods that make studying seem easier. However, they are actually learning less. One example of this is massed practice, doing a bunch of the same kind of practice problems in a row. This feels good because it seems easy after you've done the first few. Compare this with interleaving, mixing together problems that are related but not exactly the same. This is much harder as your brain has to really think about how to solve each one. In one study, students were given the task of learning how to recognize the painting styles of 12 different artists. For 6 artists, they were given the paintings using mass practice. That is, they got all the paintings of one artist, then all the paintings of the second artist, etc. For the other 6 artists, they got the paintings using interleaved practice. That is, the different paintings of the different artists were all mixed up. At the end, the students were asked which method they thought they learned more from. Students overwhelmingly predicted that they learned more from mass practice. But when actually tested, students did much better on what they studied using interleaved practice. In another study, students had 4 study sessions to study a page of text. One group used all 4 sessions to read and reread the text. Another group used the first 3 sessions to read and the 4th session to do a brain dump. The third group only used the first session to read the text, and the other 3 sessions were all for brain dumps. In both the second and third groups, the students did not get to reread the text or any other kind of feedback on their brain dumps. Of the 3 groups, students who just read and reread the text predicted the highest rate of recall, while the students who did the 3 brain dumps predicted they would have the lowest rate. But the actual results were reversed. Just imagine how well the brain dump students would have done if they had received feedback on their brain dumps. So if it seems easy, then you're probably not learning much. The most learning occurs when there is the right amount of difficulty. It needs to be challenging enough so that your brain has to work hard, but not so challenging that it becomes frustrating. And this leads me to the third myth. Myth number 3, if you find something hard to learn, then you are not good at it. The truth is, if you find something easy, then you are probably not actually learning very much. Learning requires effort. If you find something challenging, that is fantastic. It is overcoming challenges that leads to significant improvements. Of course, if something is too challenging, that is also not good. In such situations, the key is to break up what you want to learn into little chunks and just face one smaller challenge at a time. Sometimes it means taking a step back to fill in missing prerequisite knowledge. This happens a lot in mathematics. The main reason I see students struggle in university mathematics is that they simply do not remember their high school mathematics well enough. When I help them build their foundational knowledge, they quickly discover that they can excel in mathematics. In summary, there are lots of myths in education. The problem with them is that they can really negatively affect how much students learn. The 3 we looked at in this video are: myth number 1, if a study strategy feels right, then it is effective. Myth number 2, you can accurately judge how much you have learned. And myth number 3, if you find something hard to learn, then you are not good at it. The moral of all of these is that learning takes effort. If something seems to be making it easy, that's probably a bad sign. Activities that make your brain work hard might make you feel like you are struggling, but they are actually what is helping you improve the fastest. By correcting these misunderstandings and watching out for others, you will learn more. To learn even more, watch these other informative videos. Thanks for watching!